Hello! In this video, I will be walking you through creating a watercolor still life. For this project, it would have been a good idea to complete some drawing studies of a still life before you commit to the larger composition. That way you can figure out what arrangement of objects you would like. Additionally, for this project, you will need watercolor paper. Now, I recommend taping a piece of watercolor paper to a board. That will keep it from warping. In the interest of time in this video, I will not be walking you through that process. However, I do want to let you know if you don't tape down, you will have some buckling of your paper. Additionally, for this project, you will need a watercolor tray, cup of water with watercolor brushes, pencils for drawing, and an eraser. And like I said, preliminary sketches of a still life that you will be rendering, as well as the original objects that are in your still life, so you can use them for color reference. To begin this project, I will be drawing my imagery onto my piece of paper, or my still life. I may reference my drawings, and of course I will be closely examining my still life. Unlike my studies here I did on my drawing paper, I will not be putting shadow in with pencil line. I will only be doing outlines. My shadows and my colors will be done with watercolors. Compositionally, I kind of added some of my space. I decided my original drawings were a little bit plain, so you can always do that. Make sure that you're filling your compositional space whichever way you need to in order to create more interest. Before I begin painting, I'm going to clean up my drawing a little bit by erasing extra pencil lines. Be sure to do so, because once you have the paint on your paper, that's kind of hard to erase and clean up any lines. When starting with my watercolors, I make sure that I have a larger and a smaller brush. That way I can address bigger areas with the bigger brush, smaller areas with a smaller brush. I will also be working from light to dark on my paint tray. That way I can make sure that my lighter colors do not get muddied or soiled with the darker colors. I will also use plenty of water so that my watercolor is transparent. When your watercolor has a thick or pasty consistency, that's an inappropriate use of the watercolor medium. It should always be somewhat transparent. For color mixing, I will be using lighter colors first and then putting that on the surface of my paper and then applying the darker color to get the color I intend of that object. I do have black in my paint tray. I will not be using black. Black has a tendency of muddying a composition and making your artwork look dull. For shadows, I will be using blue and violet to accomplish the depth of the composition and shadowing. When working, it's important to note that if you put a color right next to another color while the original color is still wet, it will bleed. Before you work on adding adjacent color, you need to make sure the previous area is dry. Now I know that my cat is not orange, but I see kind of orange undertones. So I am working those in before I work into brown. Always be aware that your objects might have tonal differences. And don't just think, okay, object brown, I must paint brown. There might be color subtleties. Always build up intensity of color gradually. Start light and then go to darker tones. It's always easier to go darker after you've gone light, but once you've gone dark, you cannot remove to a lighter value. So always start off light. Use plenty of water to thin that color saturation down. And there you have it. There is my watercolor study, or my watercolor still life. Did take some nods from my initial sketches. I did to make the composition more interesting. I filled the space with other details. Used my colors warm to dark and layered my colors on for shadowing and reflection and light and shadow. With that said, I appreciate you for watching and good luck with your watercolor composition. Thank you.